Welcome to the New Flat Rate Podcast. In this podcast, we talk about how to hire great technicians, how to keep a loyal team, marketing, and so much more. So tune in and enjoy.
Hi, my name is Danielle Putnam, and thanks for joining us today. I'm very excited to introduce you to somebody who I feel very honored to call a friend and a mentor. This is Dr. Frank Corbo, and Dr. Corbo is a husband, a dad, a papa, a serial entrepreneur, and a serial encourager. Here today to really bring encouragement to business owners of all different company sizes and kinds all over the place. So welcome, Dr. Frank.
Oh, I'm just so delighted to spend time with you. I am such a big fan of TNFR. Love your dad, your family.
Yay.
Your dad is kind of like a hero to me. I have 3 daughters, as you know. Of course, you're one of 5 with a couple of guys in the mix. So
Yep.
I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share something that's so important to me.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you're here and appreciate you taking the time. The topic we want to talk about today is kind truth. So in business leadership and management, you're often dealing with people and managing people and teams. So when we were discussing ahead of time before this call today, and we were talking about the conversation of kind truth, do you mind opening up for us and just starting out and laying the groundwork? What do you mean by kind truth? What is it, and why do we need to recognize it and start even talking about it?
Yeah, I think it's so relevant because really it all begins and ends with building value. So when we talk about giving a kind truth, we're most of the time giving it to somebody else. We rarely give ourselves a kind truth, but that'll be a topic for another podcast, really. But people are people, and it's no different with our staff, with our children, family, and friends. They're all people, and quite simply, because they're people, they need to know one thing very, very importantly, is that they're valued, that they have a value, that they're valued, and when somebody knows that they're valued, that means they're valuable. And when they're valuable, when they know they're valued by who they work with or their family or their friends, their engagement and their productivity goes up 200 or 300%. So,
Happy Labor Day. I hope it was great for everyone. So, what's the best thing about Switzerland? I don't know, but the flag is a big plus. If you like stories like that and things that make you go, stay tuned to the end of the podcast. I have more stories like this with Storytime with TNFR.
The natural question is, how do we build value in our team or our family or friends? And that's one of the greatest questions, because it's one of the basics, So when you ask, how do we build upon that? We're really getting into the topic of how do we communicate effectively so that we're not using the spectrum of the kind truth. So kind truth is in the middle. Okay. On the left side is artificial harmony. Okay, that's where we bury our head in the sand and pretend like things aren't happening. It's really like being in denial. And then on the full right-hand side is what we call mean-spirited, or the hammer, right? So everything is a nail, and all you're doing every day in communication with your family or friends or staff is hitting them with the hammer. So kind truth is right in the middle. And so that's kind of what we call the continuum: artificial harmony, mean-spirited, and right in the middle, we have to learn how to give a kind truth. It's very interesting, because as a doc, as a chiropractor that's cared for thousands of patients, to give a kind truth as a doc is what they want, right? So they're coming to you for health advice.
Yes.
Right? So we're giving them what they need, not what they want, right? But when we're dealing with people that aren't our patients, where they're not coming and paying us to help them to be better, to be fixed, it's a little bit different. So I've learned over the years, and my gray hair kind of shows it now, that part of the wisdom that we're all hoping to get over time is to being a little bit more patient in
Mm.
our communication. And really where I think the full application of understanding this kind truth is in not just conflict resolution, but actually in just communication in general. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's one of the most important things that as entrepreneurs that we can really understand is how to give a kind truth.
Mm. You know what you're saying, I know I personally resonate with one or the other very quickly. And
Yeah.
it's easy for me to hang out in the artificial harmony zone because I don't like confrontation.
Yeah.
And many of you out there listening, many of our audience, I know you're very strong leaders and business owners, and confrontation might come very easy to you. And that being the case, for the sake of our audience, I can just imagine everybody is right now identifying with, oh, I'm mean-spirited, or I am artificial harmony, or no, I've got this. I hang out in the kind truth zone. But in the workforce right now, especially, everybody here joining us today is primarily contractors in the trades, service providers. And something that we're dealing with and have been for a long time is the shortage of technicians. So often the business owner feels like they're being held hostage by their team, by their employees, because I can't give kind truth, because what if they don't like it and they leave, and then I won't have that technician. And so I've been hearing more and more conversations all the time. I see it on all the blogs, the articles in the trades, and then also the phone calls and talking with your contractors every day. Just well, I can't afford for my technician to leave. And
Sure.
because of that, we're seeing these cultures in the company that are toxic, really, because everybody else on the team knows that technician A needs to go, but the boss won't let him go. So maybe he doesn't need to go, maybe he just needs to be dealt with, or maybe he's not following company policy. So with that in mind, could you give us some examples of what it really is to speak kind truth?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And so let's take one side of our paper if we're taking notes, and we believe note takers are history makers, right? So let's
I
take
like it.
right. So so if we're taking notes, some of the basics we've got to understand that we're dealing with people, right?
Mm-hmm.
We talk about they need to know they're valued, right?
Yes.
So here's a couple of the basics, right? So they got to know, number one, they're valuable, and that their value does not come from what they do, but who they are and whose they are.
Mm.
Okay, that's a whole nother podcast, but it's really important that they're not just a number. Okay, because if they're just a number, then they're going to feel internally like I'm only valued because I had a great week. We closed a lot of sales, right? And when you had a tough week, they're going to feel less valuable.
Mm-hmm.
And that value meter, which by the way, every person, every moment of the day is measuring their value. Okay, and that will, based on their value, that'll get them to act a certain way. If I
Mm-hmm.
feel valued, that means I'm valuable, I'll make smart decisions. If I feel not valuable, I'll make not valuable decisions because I'm not valuable, right? So that's number one. Number two, they have to know that they are uniquely created with gift sets and strengths that if they could holster and use, that's a winning combination. Okay, strengths, talents, giftedness, when we harness those, we're in the right spot. Number three, they have to know that we need a plan for success. We need those plans, the plans are the things that they want to do or achieve. Okay, those are things that they want to be able to have expectation management over, right? And then the fourth thing is we have to, this could be one of the most critical things, right? It is that we have to have common ground agreement. Okay. If you're taking notes, this one you're going to want to bold, highlight, star, get out your marker, circle it with red. Common ground is the foundation of being able to give a kind truth. Okay. Because if we don't have common ground, for example, if we don't have common ground on our core values, okay, then we can't hold anyone accountable. Okay, so that's the fifth thing. The fifth thing is to be held accountable. you got to have common ground, and you have to be willing to receive a kind truth. Okay, because I've never met anybody that woke up and said, you know what, today I want to make my day a disaster and have nobody tell it's a disaster.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to tell me it's a disaster, right? I mean, if I'm driving and I'm getting ready to go off the cliff, I don't want anybody to tell me, hey, Frank, you're getting ready to go off a cliff. I want them to just go, artificial harmony, Frank's not worth anything, just let him go off the cliff.
Great example.
Okay. So these are the basics and the building blocks. So you got to have those basics in place. And you know what? It's very interesting. I believe basics are undervalued. Okay. You know, one of the things we've talked about in some of our time together is Vince Lombardi. Okay. Considered one of the greatest football coaches of all time. And no matter how his team finished the year before, which oftentimes ended with a championship or a Super Bowl, right? No matter how that season ended, in preseason, the first day, he would hold up the football and he would say, gentlemen, this is a football. That's the basics. See, we forget that the basics are this. Business is people to people. So if you put those basics, I like to say the basics are vanilla. Vanilla is not sexy, it's not exciting. But if you don't have good vanilla ice cream, I don't care what you put on top of it, it's not going to be good. And that's what I believe about the basics of working with people, right? Is we don't have these basics in place, then we will be a hostage, right? To performance only. Okay, to performance only. So now that we have the basics in place, let's now pretend like we can go in two different directions. We can act as if we don't have the basics and common ground in place, and we are hostage to the employee. Okay, just thinking about that gives me a rash.
Yeah, yes, I feel it. Can we start there? You know, because many maybe do have the basics and the core values of, hey, these are the principles of our company. This is our mission statement. This is what we believe. This is what we hire on. But I know that there are still plenty that they have ideas. They might not have it written on the wall. The company might not know, and they really might not have a very strong basic.
Well, it's a great question. And let's say that we have assumed core values that they're not written down yet, right? Now the next question, and this relates to our family, our kids, and our staff, right? We have a saying, we call it B to C, okay? So write down B to C if you're listening. We have to be what we want to see in our staff, in our children, in our family and friends, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if I, as a dad, am not congruent to our family's core values, right? And I'm impatient, right? Arrogant, prideful, right? And then I'm starting to see my kids be impatient, arrogant, prideful.
Yes.
Right? So my rule is this. If I see anybody on my team as an employee or in my family that is behaving in ways that I don't want them to, the first thing I do is look in the mirror.
Okay.
That's the first thing I do. So on those core values, we can have them written down or not. The key is, are we as the leader demonstrating those core values? And if we're not, here's the great news. The great news is we get an opportunity to meet with our team, like I've done with teams and like I've done with our family, and say, you know what? I have to let you know I am sorry. I missed the mark. I lost my cool. I said something I didn't want to say, and I truly apologize for that. Okay. Now what you're doing is demonstrating one of the most important things that everyone looks for in a leader. So we have B2C, right? The next thing we have to do is write these 4 things down. This is critical. This is the 4 things that everybody's looking for in a leader. Trust is number 1. Trust goes with transparency. So the first letter is T, trust. So to be trustworthy, you have to be transparent, not perfect. So if you miss the mark, just let people know, gee whiz, I'm sorry, I missed that mark. I apologize. I take 100% responsibility, right? Because an apology ends with a period, not a comma. I'm going to say that again. An apology ends with a period, not a comma. Because typically a comma is rationalizing why you did the thing wrong that you did. And that's not taking 100% responsibility for it. And everybody knows it. It's like, but that didn't make sense. I'm sorry, but you were a jerk, right? No, you're either sorry or you're not. So that's the T, right? So these are the things. And again, these are the building blocks and the basics that are going to position us to be able to talk to our staff with a kind truth.
Okay.
So you got the T, trust, transparency, right? With that, here's the key concept there. Never trust a person who doesn't limp. That's why the transparency is so important. If they're not limping, they're either, number one, not in the battle, right? And if they're not in the battle, it's not relevant for me, whatever their feedback is, because they're just a spectator, not a participator, right? And if you look at Man in the Arena, look that one up. Oh my gosh, what a great essay that is, right? So now you got your other reason why they wouldn't limp is that they're hiding it. They're being fake, false facade. That's a pretender. So if they're not limping, they're not telling the truth, okay? Because everybody limps that's been through the battle. So that's the T. The second letter is a C, compassion. So the second thing you're looking for at a leader is a compassionate, empathetic leader, right? That's one who can deliver a kind truth. I'm going to share this with you because I love you, right? I lost my grandmother, my dad, and my mom all to lung cancer, right? So when I see somebody smoking, I'm compelled to give them a kind truth, compassionate, empathetic truth, okay? Number 3, this one's a little kind of tricky. You wouldn't really guess this one as what people are looking for in a leader, but it's S, and the S is stability. Okay, so if you're going down your paper, it's T plus C plus S, and the S is stability. And you think about it. As a leader, we have to be stable, firm foundation. If we're shifting around a lot, if we're saying one thing and doing another, then our credibility as a leader goes down, right? So we have trust, compassion, stability, and we have all those things wrapped up together. It equals hope. Hope and encouragement are the end result of when we interact with our people, family, friends, loved ones, neighbors, staff. Okay, so now we've got the basics, right? They're valuable all the way through common ground and hold people accountable to what they want to achieve, by the way. Really important. We hold them accountable to what they want to achieve. You see, if what we're holding them accountable to is only what we want to achieve as a business, then we're going to miss the mark and a great opportunity for growth. So when we translate their growth opportunities in our business as a technician, as a staff person, and we translate it into what it means to them if they make more money, what it means to them if they have more time off with their family, okay? Make a little asterisk, Danielle, and ask me about continuous leadership development, okay? So we got the basics, right? They're loved, they're valued all the way through common ground and expectation management. Now we know what they're looking for in a leader. By the way, that was a survey, trust, compassion, stability, hope. It wasn't said exactly that way, but it was from a survey by the Gallup poll, okay? The Gallup poll, they had that survey that asked 1 million people what they looked for in a leader. And those are the 4 things that came about. So now we have the ingredients for the outcome of hope and encouragement. Hope and encouragement position our staff and everybody around us to be more engaged with life, okay? Really, really powerful. So now, when we come to a time when we have to deliver a kind truth, okay, we're in a place where we can basically deliver it in a way that we've earned the right to make that statement. Does that make sense?
Yes. And that's key, earning the right. You're not just walking in with your hands in your pocket, speaking kind truth, which is really not kind truth, which means spirited if you haven't earned the right.
It's true.
Yeah, I can really see how this is so applicable with where we are. Again, as I mentioned, so many of our contractors do feel held hostage. So going back to establishing the common ground with their team, maybe they didn't do that when their team member came on board. So let's say day one, they hired a technician because they needed them. It's summertime, calls are on the board, we're really, really busy. We hire somebody because we heard by reputation they were a good technician, and we didn't go through, do we have common ground? Do they fit in our culture? And now all of a sudden we're realizing, hey, we've got some inconsistencies here. There's some issues happening. What would you suggest to get back to the basics of establishing common ground?
Yeah, I can tell you that the greatest challenge for every entrepreneur is, do I work in or on my business today? This one you won't fix in the business. You won't fix it in day to day. You have to intentfully, purposely sequester from the business and work on it. So you can do that with, you can do it with an offsite, right? Like, I don't have time to do the offsite. You will save more in an ROI on time if you do an offsite, or if you do even an afternoon where there's no business going on. I don't have time for that. Trust me, you do. And you'll want to make time, because what you're trying to do is, we have another, as you know, I'm big with acronyms, right? So it's M2C2, M2C2, measure, monitor, course correct. Okay. So
say that again, if you don't mind. It kind of cut out for a second.
Measure, monitor, course correct. So we have to always be measuring and monitoring what we're trying to accomplish, right? Those expectations, right? And then we have to course correct. So when we empower our team with this terminology and this understanding, and then we say, guys, you know what? I think it's time for me as the leader to course correct. I think we've gotten just a little misaligned, even though our numbers are great, right? Or if our numbers are not great, we're going to take the time and we're going to step away from our business, and we're going to start to craft a new way forward. Because here's what I believe. I believe there's never been a better time to grow our business. And I believe if we're going to grow our business, we need leaders. And I believe if we're going to bring on other employees, we need people to help train them, help manage them, help us to grow this business. Because I know when we do grow our business, we will generate more revenue. If we generate more revenue, we'll be able to pass that down to you. So you'll be able to, and your family will be able to benefit from the growth and expansion of our company. So we're going to take time to do an offsite. And on that offsite, before we get to that offsite, I want you to make a list of the things that you think we're doing great as a company, and things where you think we can improve as a company. And here's what I'm equipping you with. I'm equipping you with the opportunity to tell me the truth. I don't want to hear what you think I want to hear. We're never going to get better that way, right? So that's one of the ways you get there. And I promise you, I know it might sound scary. I don't know what to do at an offsite. I don't know what the agenda is going to be. Well, we can help you with all that stuff. That's the easy part, right? And I promise you that when you get your team in a place where, and by the way, you guys are phenomenal at that, right? Team building and offsite, and in your mastermind program, going away for a couple of days, having great speakers and leaders come in. I mean, it's awesome. But the key is, whether it's in your business location, right? Or whether it's offsite, you have to set the common ground framework. Because if you try, I mean, changing the oil in a car is pretty easy, I'm told, although I haven't ever done it. I'm told, right? But try changing the oil when your car is moving 50 miles an hour. It's impossible. Trying to reset while you're in your business day to day is impossible. But I'll tell you what, you park that car and you change the oil. In fact, if you park the car and you hire somebody to change your oil, it's even better.
Mm-hmm.
right? So those are some practical ways that you can intentfully say, hey, we're going to draw a line in the sand. Let's get some common ground. I know we can improve. Help us to do that. And that's a critical part. Help them to be a part of the process, right? We would always say this, and I heard it many, many years ago from one of our pastors. He said this when our kids were really little. He said, rules without relationship leads to rebellion.
Mm.
So if I'm always telling and not asking, right? If I have a lot of rules, right, it's going to lead to rebellion if I don't have the relationship in the middle. And I think the key part of that kind truth is a relationship. You see, if you sign the front of the check and they sign the back of the check, you have a hierarchical, structural right to give a recommendation. But that's the rule without the relationship. Put the relationship in there. And by the way, the relationship does not mean as a leader, you are living in artificial harmony, right? Oh, I'm just, I'm going to overlook that. I'm not going to address that. I'm going to put that in the drawer. I'm going to bury my head in the sand, pretend like it's not happening because I'm held hostage to this employee. Or I'm sitting over here with the hammer, right? Because I'm mad, right? Because, and I think this is maybe a good time to just unpack what are the tendencies to get us to go artificial harmony or to take out the hammer. And typically on the hammer side comes because we're not prepared for the confrontation. And we will respond with emotion, right? One of the great books, it's called Every Child is a Winner, says this, and I would write this one down. It's so applicable to so many areas of our life. And it says this: when the opportunity arises, it's too late to prepare. Okay, so when the opportunity of confrontation arises, it's too late to prepare for it. We have to preemptively prepare for these chances when conflict will come, or when I just have to address my staff over something to pull people on common ground, right? So if I don't have enough runway of preparation, I'm going to respond in an emotional way and pull out the hammer, or just forget about it. It's not important. I'm going to put it in the drawer and forget about it. So really, really important to know that the common ground and the time and expectation management, these are all great things that position us with the appropriate time and preparation to deliver a kind truth.
So good.
Really
if I can add and kind of put this right into a job site from this week, I received a call, and I know so many of our owners on the call today have technicians out in the field that do good craftsmanship, but every once in a while there's a mishap. So this week in particular, somebody gave me a call and said, hey, our technician who does dryer vent cleanings and maintenance unhooked a washer machine, the washer drain, to better reach the dryer vent to clean it, but then forgot to reattach the drain line. The technician leaves the house, the homeowner goes and does a load of laundry, and of course, floods through the ceiling and floods the basement. Now that sounds like a common, easy mistake, but at the same time, it's kind of horrific, and it was that technician's job to follow a process and to know, not to do that. So the owner was very upset, of course, because now they're calling the insurance, they've got an upset customer, they've got to spend the time to make that situation right. And the reason the owner was so upset, it was this technician's first time, but it had happened with other technicians throughout the company multiple times this year. Okay, so I love what you're saying here of in the moment, it's kind of too late, right? And so not going into setting down the hammer and being so mad. Do you have any suggestions? It's easy for me to say, well, let's write a process on drains, or let's write a process on this. What would you suggest? And as the owner, feeling that frustration with your team, how would you respond?
It's a great question. And I would apply what I shared before. The first thing I do is look in the mirror, right? And one of the things that you said, I think, turned this into a one-time thing and something that potentially is systematic. You said it happened before. Not from that particular technician, but it's happened before.
Right.
So what that tells me is either my technicians or, absent-minded, they're moving too fast, or I do not have an ironclad process that says before you leave the house, here's the 5 things you do, right? Check to see if you put the water thing back on what it was supposed to be, the widget on the carburetor of whatever it is that you said, the smart things that you said. You get what I'm saying?
Yes.
So yeah, see, because the response of taking out the hammer is, what did this mistake mean to me? What does it mean to me and to my business, right? And so we'll start doing the math. Well, now, you know, we have an upset customer. We have to always pay to make it right. Right? We always got to pay to make it right. That's a foundation. And our people are our family, right? So we are responsible for what happens as a leader, right? There's a lot of risk being a leader. There's a lot of great reward being a leader, right? We take the gains and we make profit off of what they do. And sometimes we're going to have a loss. And one of the key ingredients to being able to deliver kind truths in the battle is grace, right? We would always say this, you know, everybody can respond to the interview. I was an athlete. Everybody can do the interview after the game when you win. But I always taught my daughters, you'll know the character of a person when they're interviewed after they lose. So they say, oh, we lost because the refs were terrible. Oh, we lost because of, no, we lost because they played better. They were a better team. We just lost, and we congratulate them, right? So people are going to make mistakes because they're human. One of the reasons why we don't handle mistakes very well is because we're not preemptively prepared for the mistake. So we're going to get to it with emotion, right? I always taught our girls and our staff, put your mind in front of your mouth. I'm going to say that again. Write this one down. Put your mind in front of your mouth, and you'll cut down half the times that you have to apologize for saying something stupid, right? Or something that you regret. It might be true, but you're going to regret how you said it, right? So that's critical. We don't give ourselves enough time to preemptively understand what's going to happen, and we get emotionally tied to it. So as a business leader, we got to come to these things with grace, right? And be prepared in advance. I'll give you an example. So with our girls, I have 3 daughters, as you know, beautiful daughters, just like their mom. And so I preemptively prepared for the things that would happen, right, in advance, right, because of the book, right? So one of them was be preemptively prepared if they come home and they got in an accident with the car. You know, if they were with a boy. I even prepared in advance for what I would say to my daughters if they came home pregnant without being married. Because I didn't want to respond and make it a scar, right? So let's just take the car, because that's the example I want to use. So my preparation was, you know, okay, that's okay, sweet pea. That's why we have insurance. And so when my oldest daughter asked to take the Jaguar to the football game with her sister and with a friend, and she came home in tears, I ran through all the things. Tears, okay, for a girl. Boys, sex, alcohol, right? The drugs, the car. It's the car, right? That was a real fast move. So she said, Dad, I'm so sorry. She's in tears. And I said, that's okay, sweet pea. That's why we have insurance. Are you okay? And so it's a true story. And I think what it speaks to is we have to remember that people are valuable, that people are going to make mistakes. And what the Bible tells us, right, when something happens like that, it says, it's crazy, take the speck of dust out of your own eye before you take the 2x4 out of your own eye before you pick the speck of dust out of your neighbor's. So I know that's a long answer, but people,
so good.
We have to be patient in understanding that people are human, they'll make mistakes. When they make mistakes, resist the temptation to hit them with the hammer. And as detrimental is to say it doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. If it doesn't matter, then that puts us in another situation. So anyway, delivering the kind truth in the heat of the battle will determine and define you more for your character than when things are going really well.
Wow. I know I learned a lot. This is very, very helpful. You know, I just finished a 10-week mastermind course, a John Maxwell course on the 21 irrefutable laws of leadership. And I believe it was law number 1 or one of the ones in the beginning, the importance of raising your leadership lid. And, I've been thinking about it so much of just as a leader, as a business owner, the importance of constantly moving up and getting better in our leadership, in our character, in our delivery, in all the different ways that people are following us and looking to us for, and supporting our team and showing them that they're valuable. Like, we have to, just like you said, there's a lot of responsibility with leadership. If you don't want it, don't be a leader and don't be a business owner, right? But you chose to be a business owner. And so with it comes that responsibility to be a better leader for our people. And everything that you just said here is the building blocks to be able to raise our lids. Let's go back and make sure that we have common ground with our people. Let's make sure that we're letting them know that they're valued. And I like, too, in the very beginning, kind of when you said step number 2 was uniquely created with strengths, letting our team know that, hey, you technicians, you have unique strengths and talents and skills that we need on our team, and appreciating those, because people do want appreciation and that search for significance, and know we need a plan for success and even their success. So I'm just recapping what you said, because even for myself, I know I needed to hear this, because I want to go back and just evaluate and constantly say, what can I do to lift up my leadership and to be better to my people too, so that we can respond with kind truth when needed.
And that's a great review. And this, this is important for all of us, right? Me included. I really want to be somebody who's consistent and congruent with the things that I believe. I want to live a life of integrity. And I think one of the ways that we can communicate to our staff, friends and family, but especially staff on this particular podcast, is that you are more than a number, right? You're more than what you give to us. We want to give back to you. And the asterisks that you wrote down to come back to, continuous leadership development. You see, one of the things that we incorporate with the people we work with is continuous leadership development. Because here's what I want. We know the pathway, right? Job description, somebody comes in, they recruit, they're hired, and they're trained. Well, on that pathway, we put the continuous leadership development, because what I want to do is I want to steward well my time with that staff member. I'm going to be accountable to how I stewarded that staff member. And what I want them to do is come to a place in their journey with us where they're going to exit with grace, or we're going to do some other cool things together, right? So on that pathway, part of me stewarding my time with them is to have continual leadership development. So those masterminds that you're involved with, that we're involved with, you're doing extra mastermind leadership development and training. When we offer that to our staff members preemptively off-site, or bring somebody in to help them to grow in financial management, right? Dave Ramsey, bringing his course, helping them with other ways they can grow and expand, helping them with ways to understand how to invest their money, right? Profit sharing. One of the best things that you can do is help them to understand how to give, right? We talk about this all the time. There's a giving gradient, low, middle, high. If you teach your team to give, and one of the ways that we do is we give for $250, you can change a person's life that has a cleft palate through Smile Train, right? So now your people are growing, expanding, and you're either collaborating on this particular company-wide goal. We want to help one child a month with a cleft palate, right? That's 12 a year. And it's $250. For $250, we can change somebody's life forever. When you change somebody's life like that, what happens to your value? Goes up. When you feel better about yourself, you treat yourself more valuably. You work out more, you eat better, you work harder, you're more engaged, you have more patience, you're kinder to your clients, you're kinder to your customers. So once again, there's some ingredients, but if you put the basics in place, you're going to have common ground understanding. You'll earn the right to give a kind truth. You don't have to slip to artificial harmony and pretend like things aren't happening. You don't have to hit everybody with a hammer, but you can use the common ground to help them to be all they were created to be, because that's really our job as a leader, to help them.
Awesome. Thanks so much for being here today, and for all of, I have to call it wisdom, for all the wisdom that you've shared. I know that it's impossible not to take notes with everything that you've shared today, and everybody I know is going to be able to take something out of this that's just gold. So thank you for your time. I appreciate you being here. If anybody wants to reach out to you, is there a way they can contact you?
Always on my cell, 972-835-7495. Anytime, day or night, shoot me over a message, give me a jingle, and I will help any way we can.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thanks for being here today.
My pleasure. Take care.
People need to know that they are valued, and it's our responsibility as business leaders to encourage and help our teams. I really love how clearly Dr. Corbo laid out kind truth or mean-spirited or artificial harmony. Now we have the choice of which lane we want to be in with our teams. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey, if you don't know about Business Uncensored coming up, October 18th through 20th in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Very excited about Business Uncensored. It's our annual high-level business conference for the new flat rate. And this year we've actually opened it up for non-members as well. So look at www.2021bu.com for more information. I'd love you to check it out and join us in October. Again, thanks for joining us today. See you later.
Welcome to Storytime with TNFR. I am so excited about this week's story. Rodney Cope, our founder, interviewed a technician 8 years ago about their company, about their sales, and about how the new flat rate helped. And it's just a phenomenal interview. So I'm so excited for you guys to be able to listen in, and I hope you enjoy it.
Nathan, glad to have you on board. And I just want to say, I just thank you so much for letting us do this today.
Well, thank you guys. If it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be where we're at.
Wow. Okay. Well, I'm gonna allow you to tell us about that. But before we get into that, let me tell you, there's a lot of people that look at the new flat rate, and they're afraid. Is it just another thing? Is it just another flash in the pan? I mean, what were your thoughts when you first looked at it? At what point did you think, you know what, this might actually work?
We had those thoughts. We had the thoughts of, hey, this is just another one of those that you kind of sign up for, and you hope, cross your fingers, and false hope. Something clicked between what was communicated during the meeting and everything at this point. We just decided to say, okay, this is something we need to do. Mom felt that it was a very good thing, and she does not feel that way. If Mom says it's good, we're good. When we saw how the program worked and it started taking things out, and we're looking at, okay, now we're not commoditizing no more. Now we can actually focus more on the service, which we are very good at. We knew this is something different.
What do you mean started taking stuff out?
The commodity, the parts. I mean, we get people calling around asking for certain parts, certain things here and there, and we just had an issue with trying to compete with everybody else in town. And when we can finally change it around, now we're different. Now we offer something no one else does, and we had really good instant success off of that right away.
Wow, that's great. Well, that's exciting. So, what had you tried before this? I mean, let me preface that just to say that in contracting, I know because as a contractor, I was trying to solve the problem that it seemed like every 6 months I was out shopping for the newest and best thing. I was trying to find a way to make this business easy, smooth, profitable, and fun on a daily basis. It would keep becoming a grind. So were y'all in a similar boat like that of trying to find solutions?
Yes, we had everything from Callahan Roach books years ago. We even did in-house pricing books here, and it still looked professional, but still we were where we were at. The technicians were always giving away tasks left and right, not collected for the full jobs. It just never seemed to hit their daily totals. We just had a problem there. Something was not clicking.
So if the technicians weren't performing, so to speak, in other words, if their numbers weren't working, obviously your pricing books, your economics for the company, it was all based on them bringing in a certain amount of money
Right.
for a certain amount of time turning tools.
Right, so they couldn't meet it, so of course we had to always seem to up our prices every so often. We had to, oh crap, they're not meeting their goals again. Let's up our price again. Let's try to, price increases come around. So things like that took place, and it's just it always never got anywhere. We always seemed to be right back where we started.
What you're saying intrigues me, because what I'm hearing you say is, we had a business model that said if we would hire the right people, provide them the necessary tools and training, then they would perform at a certain level, and then everything would work on up the line. But you're saying that when they didn't perform to that level for whatever reason, the only solution was either try to make them perform,
Right.
but what you're saying, or raise the prices.
Right.
Because there's been a huge call in this industry for the last 10 years. It's like always the answer to every question is, well, you got to raise your prices, raise your prices, raise your prices.
Yeah, and we did incentives. I mean, we could have gave away a brand new Corvette. Still wouldn't have mattered. Still wouldn't have hit their goals. We did everything from TVs, trips, cruises, you name it. It just didn't work. These guys, you would think that they would have performed to try to do those things, especially with their family, and they just didn't want to do it. So it just finally, Dad just said, "All right, we're just gonna chalk it up till we came across with you guys."
Oh, okay. And what was the difference with the new flat rate?
This was cool. Now all of a sudden the techs, they don't feel like they're salesmen no more. They don't feel like I've got to go out and try to get them to buy something every time I turn around. Only thing they have to do is come up, say, here's what's taking place. Here's the book. They make the decision. That's the beauty part.
They being the customer.
They're being the customer. Yes.
Well, that's incredible. All right. So all the things that you had tried before, obviously there was a cost. You pay for things, but the energy and the effort of running a business that way, that's tough, isn't it?
It's exhausting, is what that is.
So
Mom having to track all the commissions, all the spiffs, the bonuses, the shortfallings, the negatives. It was just a nightmare.
well, now the technicians now versus then, do they like the new program?
They love it.
Really?
We've set everything up on a performance-based scale, so they get paid X amount of dollar base pay. If they bring in, say, 10 grand in revenue and service a week, we bump them up. If they do 15 grand a week, we bump them up. If they do 20 grand a week, we bump them up higher. We don't mind paying that, and they've definitely hit those goals.
So that's a very easy pay plan.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of calculations. You don't have to figure all your billable hours and all this stuff. It's just, because it's really just money, isn't it?
That's it.
The money comes in the door. Now, are they just bringing in more money, or is there more profit dollars with that?
More profit dollars with it. They're doing more tasks. The customers are wanting more service work done. We're able to do it, and they're paying for it. They don't mind paying the money for it.
So what happens to your productivity?
Well, the productivity for it is, as far as the guys' work, is
Well, what I mean is they're actually bundling, they're actually selling more tasks.
right.
So you're actually getting more tasks sold without having to dispatch to another location.
Yes, they are. So our trucks aren't running all over the place. They're running 2 to 3 calls max a day. And people think that's crazy. No, we don't run 7 calls a day anymore. We're doing that and having to schedule it out, bring on more people to handle the workload. We just turn it over to the homeowner. They tell us, and it sells itself.
Wow, I like that. It sells itself. That's absolutely incredible. When you first took a look at the new flat rate, who was instrumental? Was there somebody that referred you? Was there? Did you find us online? Did we come to you? I mean, how did you ever hear about us?
We found you guys through the NCI preferred vendor list.
Oh, okay.
Dad clicked on it, and he just kind of followed through with it, watched some of the promo videos that you had online, and then from then, I believe a called you, and there was all three of us were in there with Skype and all that with you, and we just decided right then, hey, this is the way to go.
Wow, that's great.
NCI is just not going to bring on anybody.
Uh,
So that's just kind of what sets you guys apart.
well, that's great. Well, I appreciate that. Nathan, at what point, you know, you saw it, you believed it, you had enough faith as a company to take a risk and say, okay, let's go ahead with this program. When did you realize that you'd made the right decision?
When Matt had come up to do some of the training, I had an older customer that's been with us for years, and he had an inducer assembly on a 90 that failed. And we knew that. The tech was just out there that morning while right after the training with Matt, and I actually took the book. He brought some books up with us, and I was in my office. Matt was in the kitchen in there with my dad, and we just went through everything, and I went to the platinum option. I'll go right down through there, gave him the price, and then I dropped right down to the next price, gave him a brief description, and the next one again. And all of a sudden he said, wait, you keep dropping down in prices. That means you're going to start doing less work out there, less good of a job, correct? I said, yeah, we don't have the time. And he said, okay, I tell you what, let's just go the platinum option with it. So you can take your time, do a better job, and give me a better warranty. I said, perfect. It was a $2,750 job while Matt was here. So we actually got to implement that the first time he was here. And man, as soon as that happened, I thought, oh my goodness. Out of all people, he was the old codger type customer that nobody likes to deal with. And the cool thing was the same tech went on the same similar job about a week prior, and that job sold for $1,100.
Ah, isn't that something? And the customer, they see the value of money. When they see that it's a $2,000 job versus a $1,000 job, and they're sitting with a furnace that's not running, an air conditioner, they want it done right. Mm-hmm. They know that's a better job.
Right.
Well, that's just that's amazing. I love to hear stuff like that. So at that time, you knew it was going to be.
Absolutely.
It was going to be good.
Well, you don't really feel like that something's really going to work until you're able to kind of try the water a little bit. Let's test it out. And I figured, okay, this is an old codger, and also it's over the phone, which is extremely difficult. So when he went platinum and spent that kind of cash, I was just floored. I said, okay, This is going to be sweet. This is awesome. And then the guys started doing it too, and as soon as they started bringing it in, the tasks were selling, they were just floored too. This is easy. There's no more pressure in selling this stuff anymore. So,
you know, as a contractor, when I would invest in something, and I did it many, many times, there was always that fear. And then if there came a time where I felt like, okay, I got my money back, like I've broke even, you know, it's like you just keep thinking, oh, you know, if I could just break even with this and then make a little bit of money. But so it sounds like, and obviously there's different levels of investment to come in with a new flat rate. Now we came up and did some training for you, so that costs a little more than somebody that doesn't.
Right.
But so at one point though, you had to have gotten all that money back, right?
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks we broke even, and I tracked it. And this is not in any installation. This was just service revenue only, breaking even in 2 weeks, and that was sweet.
That's, you know, I'm just thrilled. Because when I started this, not only had I struggled, but when I finally realized, wow, business has all of a sudden become easy, enjoyable, I like going to work. But believe it or not, I still hurt for all the contractors out there that were struggling. Struggling because a lot of them, like me, had got in working for their dad and stuff. And it wasn't so bad 40 years ago. For my dad, he was the only electrician in town. He had all the business, even though he didn't charge much. He didn't pay me much. But he had a good, steady business, and everything he had was paid for.
Right.
I know so many contractors nowadays, they just struggle to make their payments on their whatever they've got. So believe it or not, this is something I really wanted to do, was to help contractors. So I'm just always glad to hear stories like that.
It's done really well. We track our guys monthly on service revenue. I've got a brand new guy into this type of work to where he's having to go out and actually sell in the field. Usually he was the guy that maybe you sold something, he'd come back and do all the work that you sold. That was what he done. You know, and he's pulling numbers over 16 grand just in service revenue. I've got others that's doing over 25.
Wow.
And we've not even hit a demand season yet for cooling.
So now, if you were going to go hire a new technician, I know, and you know, that the industry has told us, we've been told, and it's not always been bad advice. At one time, it was the only advice we had, and that was you've got to find, recruit, hire, train, motivate, incentivize,
Right.
supervise, and track a clean, sharp, articulate, intelligent technician with communication skills and mechanical skills. But now, if you were to go hire somebody next week, would you have to have that perfect sales-oriented mechanic?
I don't think so, because it's a whole lot easier to be able to introduce this to anybody. We had just in testing the waters, I've had installers walk into a house and read the scripts verbatim, and they're able to come in there and sell platinums.
Wow.
Which is pretty good, because they're not salespeople. They install. And
Right.
when we were able just to kind of, let's just see who all could do this, we've seen people from the free-spirited type people to the analytical people. Analytical people seem to do better with it than free-spirited people in the personality testing that we do on the hiring side.
Wow. Well, that's just absolutely great. What we wanted to do is take the selling out of it and let the system present it in such a way that the customer now could just choose.
Yes.
And our belief when we started was that on average people would buy more. And it's pretty evident that you're finding that.
They're buying silver and up.
That's great.
We sell Band-Aids every so
Yeah.
often. I mean, that happens. But for most overall, you're at silver and up.
Well, when I go shopping, there's sometimes I buy the cheapest thing. I'm not the kind of guy that usually does, but sometimes you do. Sometimes you just don't feel like buying. Sometimes I go in there and I feel good and I'm going to buy the best.
Right.
So sometimes I can only afford the Band-Aid, so that's what I have to take.
Right.
But the fact that all the choices are on the table allows for that. Let me ask you a question about your market. We're here in Nashville, gorgeous, gorgeous city, but Nashville has a lot of different pockets, a lot of areas, and a company as old as yours, you've got customers that live in the wealthy sections, you've got customers that live in the working class section. How do you market to that? Do you just go for the rich people, so to speak, or how do you do that now that you've got this new system?
We're going to be going more into the working class area just as well, because those guys, it seems to me that we've been tracking this as well, that those type of people are willing to spend more money on that kind of fixes on problems that they have, because they can't afford to take off work every so many times because it keeps breaking. So we do see that they do spend more money. Of course, the higher end, they're buying platinums anyways. So they're just wanting more service work done. In our company, it's mostly, we do about 96% residential, about 4% commercial. So in that, we have a lot of the wealthy clients. And that's pretty much our niche of the market that we've just acquired for the last 32 years. But
Okay.
we're wanting to reach out as well for the others to be able to get our services.
So what you're saying as an older company in Nashville, you've already got a large clientele of people with money.
Yes.
We all like those kind of customers, right?
Yes.
But what you're saying is now it's profitable to reach out to the rest of the community as well.
Right, because we have options that are available for them too. And who am I to tell them what they can and can't
Right.
afford?
Well, I've certainly noticed that both Matt and I have done a lot of ride-alongs, and I've noticed that for example, if I'm around an elementary school, if there's kids in the house, they always buy the higher levels. And I determined it's because they're busy. They don't have time for this to break down again. They're going to soccer, they're going here, they're going there. And plus they have family. They want it done right. So it opens up a whole new area. So really, on the technician level, now you can hire from a much bigger pool of available technicians than before when you had to look for that super smart sales-oriented guy.
Right.
And on the customer base, it opens up the pool of customers to many more customers can be good profitable companies or customers for Copeland & Sons.
Absolutely.
Now you said you do about 4% commercial. Has any of your guys been able to use this on a commercial customer?
No, they haven't.
Okay.
It's just, I take that back. They have. We had one last Friday that we did. It was a commercial health insurance type company right down the street from here. It was a 5-ton gas pack on the roof. Of course, we went out there and did their thing. it was interesting to see for somebody who is tired of the Band-Aid type fixes out there, still went with Band-Aid fixes. It's just interesting to see those people are not wanting to do it. Fortunately, our books are set up to be able to still service them.
Right.
We weren't going to turn them away.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the ones that chose it. And at that point, it's on them.
That's good.
So we're able to get another customer instead of saying, well, you're just way too high, we're going to have to call somebody else.
Right.
We were still had the options to service them, took care of them that day.
And the nice thing about having 4 prices above the Band-Aid is it makes the Band-Aid look reasonable.
It does.
Right. Now, our experience, by the way, in Georgia with commercial customers is that typically they do, we get probably a higher percentage of Band-Aids, but on the other hand, we get a lot of platinums and silvers and things like that too. Just because whoever's making the decision, if they can make a financial decision, they also shop at Home Depot, Sears, stuff. So they like choices too, it seems like.
And that's what we did. We gave them the choice, started top down, platinum, and that's just happened to be what they chose. Unfortunately, they're in the middle of buying several other businesses in 3 different locations, and that may have been why.
Right.
So we just kind of knew all that on the front. But, I mean, we were still able to get them up and going and had a $1,600 ticket. And it was just, it is what it is.
Well, that's great.
Wow, that was incredible. If you're interested in learning more about the new flat rate, please give us a call to schedule a demo at 706-259-8892 or go to tnfr.us. Have a great day.